Caledonian McBrain and the Big Light present
Falcha, I'm Coinneach Macleod, the Hebridean Baker. Originally from the Isle of Lewis, I'm an author, TV presenter and travel blogger.
And I'm Natalie Galloway, a singer-songwriter from Fife.
We spend most of our time travelling the world, seeking out amazing places and meeting the people who live there. Together, we're the perfect guides to the very best things to do, see, eat and enjoy on your next adventure to the incredible islands off the west coast of Scotland.
Welcome to Scottish Island Adventures.
Today we're going to Colonsay. Measuring 8 by 3 miles, Colonsay is connected to a smaller island, Oronsay, on its southern end by a tidal causeway. It's a rugged island with plenty heather, wildflowers and spectacular beaches.
I took a CalMac ferry from Oban to get to Colonsay, but it's also accessible from Islay. Coming up, I'll be sipping some gin with a kick and tasting the most fragrant honey I've ever had. But first, I went right up to the north of the island to Balnahard Farm to meet some very woolly sheep. So we are at the very top of the island of Colonsay and we're here with Colonsay Wool Growers and I'm here with Sarah. Lovely to meet you. Hello.
Nice to see you too.
And we've got our David. Hiya.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me and thank you for bringing some of your many sheep with you. Do they all have names or have you just given up?
Well, we've got 450 adult ewes, so we kind of ran out of names quite early on.
450? Incredible. So can you tell us a wee bit about the kind of sheep you have here and what makes them great for the wool?
Okay, so what you'll see here is a sort of mix of what we've got. So there's probably a few of everything. So we've got some Hebridean crosses, which are the brown ones.
Right.
And we've crossed those with the blue-faced Leicester, which is a very, very good wool sheep. But they don't particularly like living in Colonsay because it's very wet. So if you cross them with the Hebridean, which is obviously totally suited to these conditions, you get something that will produce a reasonably good wool and that will survive here.
Now, I understand that the farm's been in the family for generations, but
yes.
Is wool making a new aspect or is it something you've always done?
No, wool making is new. So when I came about 20 years ago, it very soon became obvious that I was going to be expected to help with the sheep. And at that time, the farm was pretty much all black-faced, wasn't it? It would have been 400 odd black-faced sheep like her. But they're very coarse wool, so not great for knitting. And I thought, and I've always knitted, and I thought if I'm going to have to look after the sheep, I'm going to have to make this more interesting. Yeah. So I then persuaded David that we'd get a blue-faced Leicester tap, and then it went on from there, really. And I've been ridiculed a lot about trying to breed wool sheep on Colonsay, and it's all going to be a disaster, everything's going to die. But it hasn't happened.
No.
So now David's sort of gone to the point where he's pretending it was his idea as well. It's very much a we thing now.
Is this the part where I have to go, so how did you make it happen, David?
I do all the work.
I find that, do you know what, no comment.
I do a lot of pointing.
How do you go from sheep to wool? It's like a how a baby's born kind of question, but how is wool made?
Okay, so the wool will grow on the sheep naturally, and every year you need to shear sheep for their own welfare apart from anything else.
Yeah.
Wool has become almost a sort of throwaway thing. The value of British wool is, well, it's getting a bit better, isn't it? But it's not great. Most farmers will send their wool to the wool board in big bags, and you get back, I don't know, from 400 sort of mixed hill sheep, you'd probably get back £300. Wow. And we've got to transport it off the island. It didn't make a lot of sense, so we thought, well, let's have a go at actually turning it into yarn then. So what I do is I send away maybe 200 kilos a year to a spinning mill. And so I literally send the fleeces that have been clipped in big bags, and it comes back as yarn. It's like magic. We can go and look at the fleeces if you like, which
Yes,
have
please.
just recently come off the ewes.
Well, this is a very proper sanctuary.
So this here is a sack that's going to the wool board. That is predominantly black face, so more carpet quality than knitting wool.
Right.
So that will go off. But then you look at these, which are the Hebridean Blue-Faced Leicester crosses.
Oh, wow.
Which I'm really, really pleased with. And they've got this beautiful range of colours and tiddly curly bits. And then I'm plant dyeing it, some of it, after that.
Plant dyeing?
So I'm dyeing the wool with plants. So I'm collecting bog myrtle or things off the hill and then dyeing the wool with that, or nettles or moss. So the sheep and the plants are growing side by side. That's really important to me. I don't use any bought-in dyes. So everything that comes up here, bar going to the spinning mill, is Balnahard, across the board.
I love that you use everything like naturally and that the
Yeah.
plants and the sheep grow together, because it's like a beautiful sort of colour story about the island.
So it is getting a bit of a resurgence, I think, as we all start to think about what we're using and where it comes from. Okay, I was just thinking that while you're here, we should maybe just go right up to the north to Balnahard Bay so that you can see that, because it's pretty special. And also we can just then have a little chat about some of the wildflowers and maybe find some bog myrtle that I dye with. And
If it means I get to stay here longer, I am happy. Let's go.
okay. So we've got a section up here on the north end, which is Balnahard Bay, which is the Machair dunes. Mm-hmm. So we get a lot of wildflowers growing. It's quite well known for its wildflowers. So we exclude the livestock from May, when the cows finish calving, until sort of into September, except for there's maybe 20 sheep in there, just to keep on top of the weeds.
Yeah.
And then we back off the grazing of it so the wildflowers can flourish and seed. So if you look out here, there's wild thyme, eyebright, there'll be some harebells somewhere. Oh, look there, a beautiful patch over there.
I
Yep.
have to say, immediately when we got out the car, the smell.
The smell from the thyme is amazing, isn't
Yeah.
it? And the more you walk on it, the more that comes up. So
Oh.
gorgeous harebells.
Proper mountain time, that.
Yeah. Bed straw. And then we've got bog myrtle, which grows in damp places, as you'd expect from the name. It's got a gorgeous smell.
That smells divine.
Yeah, and it also dries really nicely, so you can pick it at this time of year, dry it, and then I can use it through the winter. And it's meant to be a very good midge repellent, if there is such a thing. So it would have been naturally like that. And then it produces a really strong yellow dye. So I use a lot of that on the basis that we've got acres of it.
So for the listeners, my gentle listeners, what we are seeing is a feast for the eyes. We have got beautiful mountains stretching for miles and miles. We've got the gorgeous sea. We've got these golden soft sands, and then we're standing in the sweet smelling nest of wildflowers and grass. And I mean, does it get any better? That was so cool. Thank you so much for that.
Why is somebody shut all the gates? That's annoying.
Right, so we are here. We've just had a little drive, a beautiful scenic drive actually, and we are here at Sea Pink. So Sarah, tell me what we've got going on in here, because this is fabulous.
Obviously, the Colonsay Wool Growers yarn, and also other things made on the island. We also have a lot of visiting artists.
Paintings, jewellery, hats, pillows, gloves, and the wool. I'm going to have to nose at the wool.
So that's some of the plant dyed wool. So you can get a little box that's got 4 different colours in it, and then there's a range of kits so you can knit your own. Kits have got everything in, so if you were here on holiday and thought, do you know what, I haven't brought my knitting, but I'm going to do it, everything's in there. Knitting needles, sewing needles. See, and these are the rugs that are woven by Ardbeg Crafts, who's on the mainland, who I found just by chance. She was advertising on the Greasy Fleece Facebook page, which I imagine you're all members of, looking for interesting Scottish fleeces. So I messaged her and said, I've got what you need. And what I love about the way she weaves them is that you can still see the character of the sheep. I don't want it over finished, you know. So we've even got a little fluffy I mean, that could be your sheep, but he just smells nicer.
This has been incredible, Sarah. And thank you for showing us around the island, showing us the sheep, the cows, the wool, the shop. Well, thank you so much.
Not at all. It's been a real pleasure and I've enjoyed it. It's been great.
For more information on this and all the island destinations, go to calmac.co.uk.
Wool, gloves, paintings. I love the sound of sea pink.
I actually picked up some wool for my mother before I left, so yeah, definitely have a look.
Would your mum be able to teach me to knit?
Well, she crochets, but I'm sure she can give it a good
Oh,
go.
I'd love to. So, Natty, where was next on your Colonsay tour?
Well, I'm not just going to tell you, that's too easy. I'll give you a clue through a wee taste of a song, because you know me, I'm so shy, I don't like singing.
I love it.
A song with some botanical inspired notes, shall we say? See if you can guess. Now, I'm no one for cliches, but I am so inspired by the beautiful island of Colonsay. Everywhere I look, I see wild thyme and I see heather. And I think you've guessed it already. Of course I'm going to sing a song, it's me. And I have to sing Wild Mountain Thyme. Oh, the summer time has come, and the trees are sweetly blooming, and the wild mountain thyme grows around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go, and we'll all go together to the wild mountain thyme, all around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go?
Well, Wild Mountain Thyme, Bloomin' Heather.
Yep.
And you talked about botanicals. By any chance, are you going to a gin distillery?
How did you get it? We've just driven a wee bit up the road now. We're still on the beautiful Colonsay, and we have come here to the magical place of Colonsay Gin in the Colonsay Distillery. And I'm about to pop in and meet one of the magicians behind it, Eileen, so let's go. Hello, Eileen. Nice to meet you.
To meet you. Hi there.
This is gorgeous.
Come in. Come through
Oh,
this
here
way.
we go, here we go.
Okay. Well, this is where it all happens.
This is where the magic happens.
This is where the magic happens. So we have the shop here, and then through this way is our still where we make all the gin. So we're standing in front of the still at the moment, and it's 100 litres copper still, and you're supposed to give your still a name. And our still is called gin tea. And these are our botanicals that go into our gin. Now, this is one of the hardest parts of making gin, is actually to get a good recipe. So we actually enlisted the help of a master distiller because our backgrounds are not in distilling. And the only difference between making gin and vodka is juniper berries. We'd take the lid of the still off, we'd put our 100 litres of ethanol in there, and then this is the quantity of botanicals. So this is them all weighed out very precisely, and this is our magic mix.
Has that got everything from over there in it?
Yes,
Right.
so all those different 7 botanicals, and we put that into the still, into the liquid. And we leave it to soak there for 24 hours. And in that way, the botanicals start to release their flavour into the ethanol. Before we then, the following day, apply the heat and start the distillation process. We get it to a temperature of just over 77 degrees C. That's the boiling point for alcohol. Right. So what happens then is that the alcohol in the still turns to vapour. And the vapour comes up and goes through what we call the swan neck. So then if you look in the pot over there, so this is the condenser chamber, and you'll see that there is actually a pipe inside the water, a coil.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And that's called a worm, which is a horrible name. But that's the worm. So the The vapour is in the worm, but it's in cold water. That cools the vapour down, condenses it back into liquid. And then the next part of the process is there is something called the heads, the hearts and the tails. And the heads is the first half litre we take from the still and we discard it. We don't do anything with it. And that's just for safety, in case there are some nasty gases. And then we catch the rest, which we call the hearts. And that's the gin that you like to drink.
Yeah.
The whole process for us takes about 4.5 hours. And then it's time to call it a day. And we know because of time, volume and taste. We actually taste it. And it starts to go bitter towards the end. And that's when we stop distilling. And we have liquid left in the still, and it's called the tails. And I know you saw some wool when you came in here. And what we do with our tails is we give it to the farmer's wife, and she dyes her wool with our tails, and she gets amazing colours.
Sarah, she dyes the wool with it.
Yes.
It's all interconnected.
Yeah,
That's
so you met
brilliant.
Sarah earlier.
Yeah.
So yes. So the wool products I've got here are dyed from the tails, from the gin.
Now, I've seen the bottles everywhere, like in the shop and stuff, and I've seen different variations of them. And one thing I am so nosy about is the design. I'm just curious to know the story behind all the designs on the bottles.
So we wanted a Celtic theme, sort of being in a small Scottish Hebridean island. And we started by looking at images on the internet of Celtic figures. And we found a picture of a nice lady with long red hair, similar to yourself.
Flattering, go on.
And this is who she is, but she's also a gruagach. And you will see that she has pointy ears. So
she does.
yeah, and a gruagach is a brownie with special powers. Now, legend has it, every house in Scotland has a gruagach. And if you leave them a morsel of food or drink at night, they will do your household chores. But you'll see that she has a Viking boat. So she's also a Viking, and her name is Alva. And the other part of the story is that her ship was wrecked here many years ago, and she made her way to our house. Our house is called Tina Urisk, which means house of the spirit or house of the brownie. So it was meant to be that we made gin here. So that's who she is.
That's so beautiful. So Alva, nice to meet you.
Yes.
I haven't got any. Well, we've got some grapes in the car, but I don't need my housework done. So you just take the load off at Eileen here, and she'll continue to make the gin. Thank you very much. That's incredible.
Would you like a little taste of one or two of the gins?
I mean, if you wouldn't mind. Now, what would you suggest? I'm going to go with the chef's option.
I always start with the classic gin and
Right.
let you taste it first, and then you might want to try one of the flavoured ones, one of the more unusual ones. So what I'll do is I'll pour you a little drink and have a little taste neat, and then I can add some tonic for you.
Oh my word. It's so crisp. And that bitterness, it goes right... I feel very warm all of a sudden.
Oh, right,
This
good.
is lovely.
Okay, so let me open some tonic, and I'll pop a little tonic in for you. And I recommend a garnish. Now, the garnish you can have is either orange or green chilli. Now, the orange goes because there's orange peel in the gin, and that gives you a sweet drink. We discovered that chilli is amazing with it and changes the taste of the gin and makes it more earthy.
Okay, I have to try the chilli
Have
then.
to try the chilli.
Yeah. I've never seen gin done with chilli before.
No.
Slanjava, thank you very much. Oh, you're right.
So what it's doing is it's pulling out the coriander and it's pulling out the calamus and it's playing down the orange, so you're getting a savoury drink.
I like the savoury. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Eileen, for showing us around this beautiful distillery. I'm Scottish, so I like a drink, but it's rare that I get to see the process and the labour of love that goes into making it, so thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been fantastic meeting you, and we're really lucky because we get to meet so many interesting people from all over the world, actually.
For more information on this and all the island destinations, go to calmac.co.uk.
I loved the sound of ginty, the gin still. Sounds like you had some strong stuff there, Nadia. I'm definitely going to try that green chilli.
Just a wee bit, aye. Like it's the chili totally gave it a complete different flavour. And I remember when I went there, she let me try all the different things that she put in the gin, and I chewed some licorice root.
Okay.
And I didn't realise that you're not supposed to swallow it. So halfway through, she very gently and sweetly told me to spit it out. So I bet you anything on her tours now, she reminds everyone to spit it out because of that one idiot. Almost swallowed it.
And just amazing to see the different breweries and distilleries opening across the Hebrides.
I know.
You know, all the way from the Isle of Harris distillery, you know, all the way south. There's some amazing, amazing new distilleries opening and breweries.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you've been to Colonsay.
Yes.
I've never been.
Really?
No, but I'm going and I'm so excited to go, mainly after listening to everything that you've gone to visit. But they've also got a fantastic book festival, a Colonsay Book Festival. Every April, I've been invited to go along and I cannot wait. So now that you've kind of inspired me with the wool and the gin, but there must be a wee secret you're keeping close that you weren't going to tell folk. But where else would you tell me I have to go when I go for the book festival?
Well, first of all, that sounds fun. Author extraordinaire, going to the book festival. They've got loads. They've got food and drink festivals, folk festivals, loads of music. But yes, I did do something else. My day got even more delicious. So before I hopped on the ferry back, I had time to meet one more person. So I sat outside the garden of Colonsay Hotel with a man that I was buzzing to meet. Sorry.
Oh, Natty, I knew you wouldn't be able to resist.
Stop. Honestly, I could wax lyrical about this man, but do you know what? Just play it. There is a long tradition of bees and honey being used around the Isles in the west coast of Scotland, from healing monks, using the medicinal properties of honey to wax that they may have made for candles in the long winters. I'm here with Andrew Abrams, who is fighting to keep this long history alive and has fought to sustain a very, very special breed of bee here on the Isle of Colonsay. Andrew, thank you very much for joining me.
My pleasure. As you say, I look after the black bees here on Colonsay and the wee island of Oronsay south of us. It's in a way a sanctuary, a reserve for the remnants of our native honeybee, Apis mellifera, which is the adapted bee of Great Britain. It sadly is only present in isolated areas because of imports of foreign bees. When I started beekeeping in the 70s, I was fortunate enough to pick up the last really of the what you could call pure strain of native bee, and brought them out to Colonsay, and have been looking after them since then.
I'd love to hear you talk about what specifically about the native black bees are so important and so special to Scotland.
Oh, it did. So our black bee is very different to the other continental bees, particularly on the west, what you could call the Atlantic fringe. The black bee runs up into Denmark, southern Norway and southern Sweden as well. And in a way you could say it's a survivor. It's got to work to produce enough stores, honey stores, to see it through the winter and get to build up the population again in the spring. And that is what it's good at doing. And for me, the important thing is that as our climate changes, we have no idea where it's heading. You know, that we could have long, long winters, short, wet summers, and the honeybee has to get through that. And the one race that knows how to do it is the black bee. Nature has given us the well-adapted that has taken centuries of adaptation, and it's, I think, very, very important to look after that for the future, you know.
So I saw the signs coming off the ferry and the boat, and I see that you in Colonsay and Oronsay have this special status of protecting the bees. So explain that to me, because I'm nosy, I'm curious.
In the 90s, I started campaigning to try and get the islands as a reserve that would make sure that nobody could bring in foreign blood, as it had been brought into, well, the most of the UK now is very mixed, hybridised strains of honeybee. I worked away and campaigned to get the Scottish Government to pass legislation. And that legislation basically gives a protection to the bees here, not only from a genetic point of view, but disease point of view, which is so important. It's quite possible that Varroa could come to Colonsay, and that would be through beekeepers, for example, coming on holiday. And so that's why at all the ports I've got signs up in Oban and over in Islay and at Coinneach to alert people. Think about it.
Yeah.
You know, are you a beekeeper? Have you got bees in the back of your car? Could you inadvertently, so that folk take a bit more responsibility and pure strains, pure genetic strains of honeybees, but not only our black bee, but the Italian bee, Carniolan bee in Slovenia, are under threat. Because if you keep mixing up the genetics, you can't, or it is incredibly difficult to pull apart the genetic bases, and we don't know what we're going to need in the future. Climate change it's happening. It's not something that's further on down the road. It's happening now. Yeah. Honeybees are such an important part of man's survival, never mind nature, and we need to look after the genetic resources that we've been lucky enough to have been handed.
You have these beekeeping courses, am I right?
Correct, yes. Yes, I very much enjoy teaching about the honeybee. It was generally a family. You know, you learnt from your father, your grandfather, and the skills, the traditions that we're losing in so many directions. You know, beekeeping was one of those that were passed on. That chain has been broken now. Folks have grown up in cities and very few rural people now, so that the learning process is different. And that's, you know, where the beekeeping courses come in. But no, I have about 4 every summer, and they're usually fully booked. It works, apart from when it rains. And then
I've never heard of it before.
And then we've got to sit in. But when we can let the bees do the teaching, it's great. It's ideal.
The bees are just inside with umbrellas going, I'm not going out in that. I'm happy you're keeping that tradition alive. I really genuinely am. But you can't mention honeybees without mentioning honey. This is the Isle of Oronsay wildflower honey. Now this is in high demand. We went to the shop today, and then I went again and again, and it still wasn't there until you showed up, and I followed you like some kind of creep. And then I went and bought the honey. So I'm going to open it in a... I don't know if you can Slanjavar honey, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's so fragrant.
That's honey. That's honey.
I'm blown away by your care for these animals, and I could honestly just listen to you sit and talk about it all day. So thank you.
Not at all. My pleasure. My pleasure.
Natty, I'm often inspired by island folk, but how amazing was Andrew's story? That was just wonderful.
I know, like I said, I could have listened to him sit and talk for hours. He's such just a rare piece of magic that you find in the world. He really, really was.
And how did the honey taste?
Well, it's really difficult to explain because it was like nothing I've ever tasted before. I love honey, like I'm such a Pooh Bear, but I've got words here. Heaven, bliss, oh my goodness, sweet, fragrant, thick. It is everything you want in a honey, but as soon as you opened it and smelled it, you were like, oh, this is different. Actually, you're a baker, right?
I am.
Right, so I've put it in tea, I've put it on honey, all the kind of normal stuff, but what would you recommend I do with this Colonsay honey?
Do you know what? I love using honey in recipes. And actually, in my latest book, Hebridean Baker, the Scottish cookbook, I've used it in lots of recipes. Look, you know I love putting a twist on a classic recipe.
Oh, aye.
So how about my hot toddy pavlova? Delicious. My honey steamed pudding.
Yes.
My honey rock cakes. Can you see a theme here? I absolutely love using honey, and good quality Scottish honey just tastes, and the fragrance, as you said, is just beautiful.
I'm going to try every single one of these with your supervision, of course. Yeah, everybody check out Coinneach's new book and try and make it, because you'll probably do it way better than me. For more information on this and all the island destinations, go to calmac.co.uk. Well, that's all from us this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, like, rate and review, and share with your friends.
For show notes and more information on this and all our other island destinations, plus full details on Caledonian MacBrain's routes, timetables, prices and bookings, go to calmac.co.uk.
Every journey starts a story, so book your Caledonian MacBrain Island adventure now.
This podcast is brought to you by The Big Light. The presenters were Coinneach Macleod and Natalie Galloway. The producer was Flora Zychek, with mixing and original music by Brian McAlpine. The assistant producer was Michael Park.
From the Big Light Studio.